frog in my throat there. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Let me see. What day is it today? I've forgotten what date it is, but it's around the 18th or 19th or something. Or the,
20th.
no, it's the 20th today. It's the 20th today. Is that right, Chris?
That is.
Right. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Saturday morning and another story time. First, before we begin that, I'd like to say good morning. Excuse me, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing to my, I've done it again, to my right side. I look in the camera and I see a completely different side. So, Grey Eagle standing to my right side. And we have our lovely Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. Good morning, everyone.
And Chris and I have just been talking about diets and dieting and all of that sort of thing, right, Chris? And I'm a great believer in never dieting, ever, ever, ever. I'd like to tell you that I've never been on a diet as such. That wouldn't be true because I've tried a few of them here and there over the years. But I'm a great believer in not going on a diet, no matter how fat or skinny, because, people go on diets to put on weight. I've done that myself. People go on diets to put on weight as well as to lose weight. But I'm a great believer in finding a way of eating that you can manage for your life, a plan of eating, what you should eat and how you should eat, that actually will help you to lose weight. I feel like, wait a minute, this is story time. Hold on, everybody. This is story time, and it makes me sound like I'm the diet guru. I'm going to teach you now how to lose weight. But I'm not really the diet guru at all. I just feel that we should all be on a plan of eating healthy, but a plan that we can stick to, a plan that is easy for us, a plan that is good for us, a plan that works for us, and a plan that we're not going to give up on. So Chris and I have been talking about that this morning, right, Chris?
Absolutely. You have such great advice.
So this could be this could be another string to my already very, very, very stringy bow. I've listened to the spirit world for so many years now, and I have had in front of me so many clients who bemoan and bewail they're too fat, they're too heavy, they're too this, that, and they look me right in the eye and they say, and I hardly eat anything. It's like you sit there looking at them and it's not true. And Grey Eagle is chuckling because he knows it's not true. and then very often, actually, in fact, many times, and some of you might relate to this, many times, we're talking to them. And, one of the problems that they might have is the fact that I just don't know what to do. I just can't lose weight. And someone in the spirit world, their mother or their father or somebody might say to them, well, you might want to get rid of that hidden stash of potato chips you've got under your bed that you don't let anybody see. So, we talk about the spirit world sees all, and it really does. It really does see all. So any of you out there who are secretly snacking or secretly doing anything at all, please do be aware. There's nothing secret in this life. And if you come to see somebody like me, oh boy, you've had it. Very often I don't tell people the secrets that I know because I wouldn't want to embarrass anybody. But it's amazing what the spirit world knows, and it's amazing what the spirit world will often tell me, not for meanness or not to pry, but actually just because they need to help and guide us. And so if I know these things about people, I can help them to maybe encourage them to get rid of that big bag of snacks that they've got hidden under their bed. Now, right, where are we, Chris?
Story time.
moving on to something else. So, there are so many stories that I could tell. And actually, even though Thursday mornings is not story time, I did actually tell a story on Thursday that if you were not able to watch Thursday's story time, where would they be able to find Thursday's broadcast, Chris? If people wanted to find out about it, where would they be able to find it?
They would, because Thursdays are the Spirit World Sees All, on your YouTube channel, they could go and find all of your videos.
Okay, but can they also find them on Facebook and
Yes, they won't be live, of course, but yes, they are on your Facebook page
right,
too, as
right.
well as Twitter.
Right. So you can find these things. You can always go delving into it and find these things if you would like to. And Thursdays was a very good story. I did contemplate telling the story again for those of you who weren't able to watch on Thursday, and then I thought, well, no, because you can go and find it. So I'm here with a new story. But before we go to the new story, we have had, or actually I didn't have, but Chris had a little problem this morning. Today, we had originally, a few months ago, we had originally booked today as one of our webinars, and I think it was our Healing Hands Around the World. And we had cancelled it, and we thought that we'd let everybody know, everybody who booked tickets, we thought that we'd let everybody know that we were not able to do it this morning for a variety of reasons. Unfortunately and inadvertently, we had an oversight, and we had a lovely, lovely lady who called and said, I'm sitting here waiting and nothing's happening. Well, nothing's happening because we cancelled it, but unfortunately, this lovely, lovely lady slipped through the cracks. We don't know how many others of you who might have slipped through the cracks as well. We're hoping not too many. Chris, what is her name, this lovely, lovely lady that I'm talking about? What is her name?
Her name is Grace.
Grace. So, Grace, we would very much like to make it up to you. Now, first of all, I understand that you were really looking forward to this webinar because it's your birthday and you were excited to do something great on your birthday. So the first thing we'd like to do is for your birthday, I would like to send you a set of the meditation CDs, and I think you'll love those. So happy birthday, happy birthday. That's my gift to you, along with a couple of books also. Happy birthday to you. And also, as an extra special treat, we'd like to invite you as our guest to our next webinar, whatever that is, because I hate to think that there you were planning your entire birthday day around this lovely morning that you were going to have with us, and you must be so disappointed. And I don't want you to be disappointed. I want you to have something to look forward to. So we're going to, if you would like to, send us your address, email the address to the office, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, or if you prefer, Chris, K-R-I-S, Chris at rosemaryaltea.com. And send us your address, my darling. That would be my birthday gift to you. So happy birthday. Now, I don't know what's going on with my throat. It was perfectly fine a little while ago, right, Chris? I was talking perfectly normally, and now I'm all sort of struggling just a little bit. Anyway, enough of all of that. So Grace, the whole of this hour, we're going to be thinking about you, and and I personally am going to be thinking about you and thinking about what can we do to make Grace's birthday a happy day. So big smile from me to you, lots of love from me to you, another happy birthday from me to you. And as we go along, I'm sure that we might get comments from other people listening to this show, watching this show, who are also going to be saying happy birthday to you. How amazing is that? So let's get to our story time. Now, this morning, I was wondering, thinking, what story should I tell you all? And the thing is that my bag of stories is so filled. And a lot of the stories I've written about. And I know that one or two people have said, can you tell us some new stories? Which, of course, I have done, stories that I haven't yet written about. Um, but this story is, let's say, it's one of the old stories. Even though you might have read about it, I always think, I certainly for me, if I'm listening to an author, if I'm listening or somebody's reading a story from their book, I'm always intrigued because, when you're reading a book, you read it one way and you put the inflections in where you think they should go and so on. But when you get an author reading the story, I'm not going to read you a story, I'm going to tell this story. But when you get an author telling the story, you always learn much more about the story than ever there is in the book. When someone is writing a story, unless you want the book to be entirely about that one story, you can't put everything in about it. So even if you've heard this story before, even if you've read about it before, listen attentively because there will be some little new insights that you might learn. So, once upon a time, here we go with our story time. Once upon a time, as all good stories must always begin, there was a girl. And this girl was, I don't know what she was. She was shy, she was introvert. She spent, I would say, the majority of her childhood in a sort of like in a dream, really. Um, let's put it another way, maybe not in a dream, but not quite always present in the moment. She had her teddy, she had her dolls, Susan and Jennifer, and it was you quite often find her with the dolls on the sofa and the teddy on the sofa, and she would be there. She would either be the school teacher or she would be the music teacher, or she'd be teaching these dolls of hers and her teddy different things, and she would be in her own world, right? Now, as the girl grew, some of you have read the story now will know where I'm going with this. As the girl grew and grew older, still she was in sort of in that, let's say, that other world, a world that other people, certainly other people on this earth plane, never entered. And she was again, she was very shy, so she never talked about these experiences to anyone. There was no one really she could talk to them about it, about experiences anyway. There was no one that she could confide in. Her parents were extremely strict. In fact, I would say to the point of being sometimes quite brutally strict. So even on those odd times, if she woke up in the middle of the night crying, or if she couldn't go to sleep because she saw faces or heard voices, even then she could, if she cried out, she would get her mother coming in and smacking across the head and telling her to shut up and go to sleep. And so no sympathy there. So no way of discussing any of this stuff. So she learned very, very quickly in her young age to not say, to not tell. So all through her life, then growing up, getting married, she was still having these experiences, all sorts of different experiences. There were times when, let's say, she would be sitting there, she'd be somewhere else, and suddenly realize that an hour had gone by or 2 hours had gone by, and she'd been in what some might consider to be a trance state, but what she always considered to be that other place, wherever that other place was. But she was very careful when she was around people. She was very, very careful to make sure that none of that ever showed. So can you imagine what it must be like to live in two worlds? A world where you have people, especially growing up, you have people who are, let's say, unsympathetic, cruel, very often cruel, mean, I don't know, making you feel less than. And then you're living in this other world. There's another world that you're not really sure of, and you're also not really part of. So living in two worlds, not being a part of either world, and trying to juggle that, and trying to sort out the confusions, and not being able to, and also trying to put on this face of looking like you're a normal person, and trying to sound like you're a normal person when you absolutely sure that you're actually not normal at all. Add to all of that, can you imagine living, growing up from the youngest age, being told by your mother continually on a very regular basis, if you're not careful, you're going to end up in the towers like your grandmother. Now, for those of you who live in England, and those of you who've read my stories, you know that the towers is the local psychiatric hospital in the city of Leicester, which was where I grew up, which is where the girl grew up. Okay, so when I was younger, I didn't know what the Towers was. I knew it wouldn't be a nice place because the way my mother said it, I knew that it couldn't be a nice place. And I was also confused because I never met my grandmother. She died when I was 6 weeks old, when the girl was 6 weeks old. We now know we're talking about me now, don't we? But she never met her grandmother, and she didn't really know anything about her except that she was crazy, that she was considered to be mad enough or crazy enough that she was in fact a patient in a psychiatric hospital. And as you're growing up as a young girl and then as a young woman, that is terrifying. To think that you're going to end up just like that is really quite terrifying. So now the years pass, the girl still keeping everything to herself, all her fears, all her worries, all of her visions, which she had many of, all of her experiences, hearing voices, seeing faces, all of those things, keeping them to herself, very, very much so. And now she had a child, a little girl, and now the threat of being exposed was even worse, because not only was she now afraid that someone would discover that she was in fact crazy, which she at this point really believed that she was. You tell somebody something for often enough, long enough, they'll believe it. But not only was she now, trying very hard to make sure that nobody found her out and whisked her off to the psychiatric hospital, she was always afraid. She was also afraid, and more so, in fact, that they would take her child away from her, which was very real. It was a very real threat. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure some of you listening can put yourselves in that position, or perhaps, a little bit at least, understand in that position how it might have seemed that you've got to be somebody else. You've got to be seen as somebody else. You've got to be seen as somebody normal, whatever that might mean. You've got to be somebody normal in order that you keep your life straight, your child safe, and in order that you keep everything running as normally and as smoothly as possible. So now here I was. My husband finally had left, one issue out of the way. Unfortunately, the moment he left, the visions, the experiences became worse and worse, stronger and stronger, more so and more so. And I became more and more of a recluse. The only thing that I would ever do every week would be go to the grocery store or to the post office, whatever it was, once a week, get what I needed to get, and then scurry home and stay home. I became literally a recluse, to the point where a friend, I didn't know her too well, but she'd become a friend, decided one day that I needed to go out. She called me up and she said, no excuses. I'm going to pick you up at 7 o'clock and we're going somewhere. She didn't tell me where. I said, oh, no, I'm making all these excuses. She said, I'm coming and I'm going to knock on the door, so better be ready. Part of me desperately wanted to go because I was so lonely. And part of me really didn't want to go because I was so afraid that somebody would see me or somehow know that I was crazy. And when I say this, I'm not saying this lightly. For those of you who really feel that you're going crazy, you will know that, you're not going around saying, I think I'm going crazy. What's the matter with me? I think I'm going crazy. You don't say anything at all. You keep it all inside because you're afraid even to voice it. So sure enough, my friend came and I climbed in the car and she whisked me off. I said, where are we going? She said, we're going to see somebody. We're going to this person's house. I saw it advertised in the local paper, and there's a tarot card read. There's a man who's going to be reading tarot cards, so we're going to go to that. Now, I'd had nothing to do with any of this. I didn't really know what tarot cards were about, but I started to feel really, really nervous, sick. My heart started to race a little bit. I tried to say, really, that's not for me. But she wouldn't have it. Very tough, this person. She would not have it. And we finally arrived at this small cottage in the middle of nowhere. We walked in, everybody else was there. The room was packed. There were only 2 seats left in the room. One of them my friend took, and the second seat was right at the front, right sitting the chair right next to a young man who was to be the speaker for the evening. And I had no choice but to sit there as he's dealing the cards and, they were ready to begin. So he started dealing the cards and he was telling everybody what this card meant and what that card meant and so on. And all I could think to do was just keep my head down and not look at anybody. Because if I didn't look at anybody, they wouldn't be able to see anything on my face. But the more this young man started to lay the cards out, the more I kept thinking to myself that applies to me, and that applies to me, and what he's saying applies to me. And the more I thought it applied to me, the more I kept my head down. Remember, I'm not as you see me now. I was so intimidated and afraid for my daughter. I was this very, quiet, somewhat shy person. And at some point, he looked at me and he said, I'm doing this for you. And again, I just buried my head and didn't look at him. But I knew that what he was saying was true, because somehow or another, I knew that what he was doing was for me. So he ended his speech by then saying, so I have this, and he lifted up a chain with a cross on the end. And he said, I have this chain. And he turned to me and he held it out to me. And without thinking, I put my hand out and he put the thing into my hand. And he said, just close your hand and tell me what you think or what you feel. And I was trying to give it back to him. And all of a sudden, the thing happened that I said would never happen, that I would never allow to happen. Without any warning whatsoever, the entire room disappeared. All of those people, and there were quite a few people in the room, the whole room disappeared. The furniture, the walls, everything, it just disappeared. And it was almost as if I had sort of shrunk back and gone into that other world. I sat there, and as I watched, and this is where it gets fantastic, as I watched, this enormous ship came into view. I was facing this very dark, very grey ocean. very turbulent ocean. Everything was grey, grey, grey. And from the corner of my eye, I could see this ship coming towards me. And as it came towards me, I noticed a figure of a woman on the ship. And she was leaning against the rail of the ship. And she was holding out her hands to me like this. She was reaching out to me. And I could hear her pleading and crying, "Help us, please, please help us." Over and over, I could hear her. And the ship came closer. And as it came into my full view here, I realized with a shock that the lady on this ship, who was wearing a small hat, very much like the Salvation Army wears, she was wearing a grey dress with some sort of a badge on the front, on the side. And I realized as she's holding out her hands and pleading with me over and over, "Help us, please, please help us, please help us," that the lady had no face. There were no features. Her face was just blank. But yet I could hear her calling out to me. And as I slowly watched as the ship went slowly by, it began to tilt. And the front end of the ship began to sink down into the ocean. But I could still hear her calling out to me, "Please, please help us, please help us." As quickly as the ship sank, there it was again. And again, coming towards me, and again seeing the lady with no face, and again hearing her pleading, begging me, "Help us, please, please help us," and again watching her drown as the ship went down. And then a third time, the same thing happened again. And as the third time, and the ship went down and sunk into the ocean, and there was no trace of the ship, but I could still hear the voice of this lady, distressed, deeply distressed, "Help us, please, please help us." Suddenly the room came back into view. The people were all there. And suddenly I realized that without even knowing, I had been recounting everything that I'd seen and everything that I'd heard. And my face was wet. My blouse was saturated. I'd been crying so hard. And when I came to and looked at all of the faces of all of these people, the only one I knew was my friend who sat in the back of the room. And they all looked at me as I knew they would. They all looked at me as if I was crazy. And I knew then that my fears had come true, that I'd shown my craziness, and I was terrified. Very quickly somebody came and handed me a tissue, and then the next thing I know, one of these men leapt up out of his chair, started screaming and screaming, "It's all a fix, it's all a fix, you've done this deliberately, you've planned all of this, you're a charlatan, you're a fake," he's yelling. And I was so out of it, really, didn't really quite understand what he was saying. And he grabbed his wife and hauled her out, and he said, "We're leaving." And then one of the weirdest things was as he suddenly turned to me and he said, "And you've got too much makeup on," and left the room. What the too much makeup had to do with anything, I have no idea. But anyway, I think he was so in shock and so scared, as was I, but for different reasons. Because now I knew absolutely that I'd messed up. I knew that I shouldn't have gone out. I knew that I should have kept myself to myself. I knew that I should have never let anyone see me like this. Because these things would happen when I was at home and by myself. I would see all sorts of things and experience all sorts of things. But this was the first time publicly that I'd ever shown that other world. So somebody brought me a cup of tea. But my friend, who was totally shocked, totally scared, as quickly as she could, grabbed hold of me and she said, "We're leaving, we have to go." As we walked to her car, the man whose house it was, his name was Paul Denham, he came out to the car with us. And just before I got into the car, he grabbed my hands and he said to me, "You know, Rosemary, I know you think you're crazy and you're going to think I'm crazy too. But one day, very soon, I think you'll understand that you're one of the sanest people on this earth." I thought he was crazy. I really thought he was crazy. My friend took me home. Not a word was spoken between us. As I got out of her car, I cannot ever remember her speeding off so fast. I didn't hear from her again for a long time. She was so terrified and I think very regretful that she'd ever taken me anywhere. And I went to bed that night dreading what the outcome would be, dreading, because the safety of my daughter was really, very much my concern. I was woken the next morning with the phone ringing, and it was Paul Denham on the phone. "We would very much like it if you would come and see us. We need to talk to you and we think you need our help. What happened yesterday, we can explain it to you." At first I said no, wanted nothing to do with it, absolutely not. But then he said, "Rosemary, you need help. Something's going on here. Maybe we can help you." At that point in my life, I was so desperate. I had no friends. I was on my own with my daughter. I was very afraid of ending up in the psychiatric hospital like my grandmother, just as my mother had told me continually when I was a child. So I think I went just to reach out and have somebody to talk to. And that was the beginning of who I am now. The end. Okay, Chris, how you doing there?
I'm trying to wipe my eyes, Rosemary.
I don't know why.
Because of the
everybody,
vulnerable person and all
everybody has
you've
a
done for
story.
this world since. That's why.
Well, everybody has a story, don't they? Everybody has a story, and everybody's has a story that is somewhat tragic. If not to anybody else, it's tragic to them. Sort of my tragic story actually turned out to be, not nearly as tragic as I thought it was going to be, not nearly as tragic. And so I'm hoping that, those of you out there who are listening, who have had your own experiences and who've had your own doubts and fears about yourself, you understand that, strangely enough, it's terrifying to share. And let me tell you, I did not choose to share willingly. It was not my choice to share at all. But I think, when we say a trouble shared is trouble halved, it is so very true. So if you're out there and you have things within you that are frightening you, or that you're nervous about, or you feel less about, or you're worried about, sharing with someone you trust, I think is, maybe can be very, very helpful to you. Right, let's have some comments here, Chris.
All right. Be prepared to be embarrassed.
Pardon?
Be prepared to be embarrassed. I know you. You're not going to take all these compliments well.
Me?
You. Get ready. Jillian says, "Thank you for being so brave, and to those who helped you along the way." Mila says, "You're an angel. I
Oh,
completely understand." Um, everybody's throwing in tons of comments here. Rosemary, sorry, this is from Mark. Rosemary, you mentioned that there was a room full of people and yet only two left in a rumble. But the lesson I sense was that you were given this for a purpose, for God only knows because of what you revealed and who you are. Saza says, greetings from Sarasota, Florida. Fascinating story. You are an inspiration. Thank you for these lovely moments you share with us. You will never know how much you are appreciated, makeup and all.
I actually have to tell everybody, I only wear eye makeup. I got nothing on my face at all. It's just what, just like, it was a weird thing for the guy to say. He was obviously terrified. Thank you from Sarasota, which is only just up the road from me, like 20 minutes or something. Keep going,
All
Chris.
right. Tina says, hi from Canada. You're such a beautiful soul, Rosemary.
Oh,
Judith says, this was a huge lesson and turning point in your life. You needed reassurance and encouragement. Carolyn says, all I can say is, bless your brave heart. Jane says, you got more, Rosemary.
all right. And then
L-
then I'll be allowed to comment, right? Keep going,
yes.
Chris.
Love the raw honesty of this story and seeing the same beautiful, elegant lady on Oprah many years later.
Oh, thank you.
Judith says this story gave me chills. I can feel the desperation of the faceless woman. It brings tears to my eyes. Mark said, what an amazing apparition, almost Titanic.
Oh, gosh,
Mm,
yes.
let's see, there's a few more here. I'm scrolling back and forth because they were coming in fast and furiously. Sherry says, that's amazing. I agree with Chris. You're such a blessing to us all the time and hope you have given us all. Thank you. And Rosemarie says, thank you for sharing, Rosemary. So those are all the compliments that came in, all the appreciation, words of appreciation. So yes, it's your turn to say something before we go on.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I am no angel. We all really know that, don't we? And I'm not nearly as nice as you all think I am. And certainly, this particular story had nothing to do with bravery. Um, I think it really had everything to do with desperation. So I just want to be clear: I was not being brave at all. I have been brave many times. After all, I am a warrior soul. But I do want to point out about that story. Some of you may be thinking, what an odd thing to see a faceless lady, because I could see everything that she was wearing, but her face was sort of almost like a white blank mask. Now, um, if you remember in the story, she was calling out, help us, please help us. And then I watched as the ship went down into the ocean, into that grey ocean, and no ripples at all. And I think that was a very symbolic um, vision. It was a very symbolic. It tells me, it tells all of us that this faceless lady represented all of those in the spirit world, all of those who seem to have disappeared, who we don't see. We look out at the ocean, or we look out at the sky. When we lose someone, they have gone from us. And very often in our grief, it seems like the whole of our lives is this grey ocean, and the desperation that we sometimes feel when we've lost someone. But imagine on the other side of things, the desperation of those in the spirit world. There's a great movie. It's a very funny movie. It has Ricky Gervais, and it's called Ghost Town. It's a very, very funny movie. But it's also a movie that shows the desperation of people who have died, people who need somebody like myself, people who need to be able to connect so that through me or through those who are like me, they can connect with their families and let their families know, because we in our grief, we see them as gone from us, buried in an ocean. We're never going to see them again, perhaps. We see them as, you know, that in our desperation, in our grief, we're so filled with grief that they have disappeared from us. But if we look at it from their side of things, which is what was going on here, this lady with in grey with no face, she was saying, remember, help us, not help me. She was saying, help us, help us. So she was asking me, please, would you be our voice? Would you be our voice? Would you be who we need? Would you speak for us? And this is why, you know, many people refer to me as the voice of the spirit world, and in so many ways I am the voice of the spirit world. I am their voice, because all of these so many years ago, I can't tell you how many years ago, all of these so many years ago, they called out to me, help us, please, please help us. And so this is what we strive to do, don't we? Luckily, since that time, people are talking about this subject more and more openly. It's not the secret that it used to be. It's not the taboo subject that it used to be. People are much more open. We're much more aware. We're much more willing to say, well, you know, I mean, you get somebody saying, I believe in ghosts, or I believe in the afterlife. I mean, it was a no-no. People kept quiet about it, but nowadays we all talk about it. So I'm hoping that that lovely lady in grey with no face, representative of all of those in the spirit world, I'm hoping that they have had some help in reaching out to all of us and reaching out to all of their families. I'm hoping that that's my job, and that's what I try to do. Okay, Chris.
All right, the next set of compliments has a lot to do with your beautiful
Compliments.
blouse. They love the color, they love the design, they love you in it.
$8 from Walmart. I'm not ashamed to say. What can I tell you? I just came across it. And there it was. I thought, oh, I'll have one of those for $8. See, everybody thinks that I wear designer clothes, which I actually do a lot of the time, because I'm very fortunate, because I have good friends who give me things from time to time. Anyway, this is $8 from Walmart. But thank you. Keep going, Chris.
All right,
If I
so
hadn't
now,
said anything, nobody would know, would they?
no, that's true. So Mark's going to talk about back in the beginning when we started about, we were talking about weight. So he says, Rosemary, back on January 4th, I began my sugar detox program. And to this day, I'm still doing it. I've lost about 11 to 13 pounds
Wow.
ever so slowly, but I feel much better. My goal was to be from 206.8 to 184. This is tough to do, especially for those of us over 50. I'm soon to be 60 in June, and it is difficult, but I persevere.
Well, good for you. Good for you. You know, maybe one day we'll talk about diet, and I'll give you a few little other little tips. But one of the things I think is really important for all of us to know is to eat as little processed food. If you can, you know, people say, well, I don't have time. I don't have time to make it. It's easy for me to buy it. It's easy for me to buy a packet of this or a can of that or something like that. And it actually isn't easier. It's much cheaper to make your own stuff. And there are freezers, you know, you can make something for the whole week if you want to, and then just bring it out as and when. But try, and because processed food has so much sodium, and sodium is what retains, it sort of creates water retention, and then you get bloated. And so just, I'll give you little tips from time to time. How about that? Yes, Chris.
Jennifer says, hello, Rosemary. It's nice to meet you. I am from the Netherlands.
Hi. Hi.
And Tinfoil Hatter says, it's an honor to be here, and I'm none too embarrassed saying it either. How do you like that?
Well, I love it. I love the tinfoil hat. I always think of that Mel Gibson movie. I can't remember what it was now called, but anyway.
Jillian says, hello, Rosemary. Sun is shining here today in Nova Scotia after a big dump of snow yesterday.
Nova Scotia. Wow.
And I love the colors of your top, very
Oh,
spring-like.
thank you. Thank you.
All right, so here we go with our first question.
Uh-oh. Yes.
Shaz says, hi, Rosemary.
Good
I had a
morning.
very vivid dream a few days ago where I was hugging my mother who has passed on. It felt incredible and so real. Do you believe it really happened? I miss her
Oh,
more than I can say.
without a doubt in my mind. You know, very often when we're in our what we call a sleep state, or that sort of half awake, half asleep state, um, we have these experiences. But very often, those in the spirit world, when we are asleep or in our that sort of nice sort of floaty stage, that is when they can come close to us, and that is when we can recognize them. We know that they're there. And, you know, when you wake up from a dream, which is really not a dream at all, you know, when you wake up from an experience that is absolutely real and absolutely did happen, certainly, you know, you wake up thinking, oh my gosh, I had the most beautiful dream, but it was so real. But it was only a dream, but it was so real. But it was only, and you keep going back and forth, but it was so real. Your soul is telling you to believe it. Your mind, your heart, your spirit is telling you to believe it. Believe it. What a fantastic and a wonderful experience you had. I'm so thrilled for you. Please believe it that your mother was there with you. And these are more common. These occurrences, these experiences are far more common than you could ever imagine that they would be. Chris.
Barb says, good morning, all. Speaking of diets, I thought you said at one time that you put Gray Eagle on a diet. Am I out of my mind?
You are out of your mind, absolutely. Oh yes, you know, there's no way I would not ever do. Aside from the fact that he's so thin, he's laughing so hard. We're both laughing so hard, my darling girl. No, 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 absolutely not. But what you may have misunderstood is that I very often am in the kitchen with him, and if I'm cooking things for somebody else or other people that I actually personally don't eat, for instance, uh, I was I was never a vegetarian. I'm not going to ever say that I was a vegetarian or a vegan or anything like that, but I stopped eating meat for many, 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 many years. And when I say meat, I mean chicken as well. You know, people, you say to people that don't eat meat, so you go to the house and they say, what can we get for you? And you just say, well, I don't eat meat, but just do what you want and I'll just eat whatever's on the table that I can eat. And they produce chicken. Because they think if you don't, well, you don't eat meat, but at least you eat chicken. Hello. But I only ate fish, and I'm actually going to go back more and more and more to that because I've never felt healthier than when I didn't eat. Everybody eats. Everybody's diet is different, and it's different for each of us. But I actually am. I actually have some fish for my dinner tonight, and I'm just thinking of all. There's so many different ways that you can cook fish and make it really, really delicious. But I'm having fish tonight, so there we have it. Grace, are you still there? Are you still listening? Happy birthday to you, Grace. Happy birthday to Grace. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to Grace. I did say from time to time we'd mention you again and give you at least somewhat of a special morning, my darling. Yes, Chris, keep going.
Judith said, Rosemary, how kind and generous of you to share so many wonderful birthday presents with Grace. I have no
Oh,
doubt your gifts will be appreciated, enjoyed, and shared.
oh, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Tinfoil Hatter said, dreams surely have a very real reality. You can feel that. I know I can when it happens, if not afterwards. But lately, I can't seem to remember much.
Oh, well, I always advise people, and no matter who you are, if you're anything like me, I will get up at least once in the night. It's got nothing to do with age. It's always been the thing. I've always, certainly since my 20s. It might have something to do with the fact that I have kidney issues. I don't know. But I always get up once or twice in the night to pee. See, I'm telling you sharing these very private things with you all. But anyway, so why am I saying this? Oh, yes. So I always advise people to keep a pad and a pen next to the bed. And then if you do wake up and because you can wake up, something can be so vivid, you can see something or hear something, it's so vivid and so clear. And then you go back to sleep, you wake up again later and you think, what was that? You remember that something happened, but you don't always remember what it was about, or you don't remember the detail. But if you keep a pad and a pen next to your bed, next on your bedside table, you can just, even if you're half conscious, just scribble something down, scribble down what you're thinking, and it will help you to remember then when you wake up the next day. Yes, Chris.
Betta says, good Saturday to everyone.
Good morning, Betta.
I read your book, Soul Signs, and I realized that I am the child soul. I think she means newborn. And my husband is the warrior soul. Do you think we are okay together? I like your blouse today.
I should let Walmart know. I'm advertising Walmart, for goodness sake. Yes, better. Well, a newborn, oh, they're one of my favorites. So lovely, so naive in so many ways. Definitely look through rose-colored glasses at things and always able to see the best of things rather than the worst of things. If your husband is a warrior, he will treat you gently, but every now and again he'll come at you. He's an earth sign. He'll come at you with a plan of something or another that you sort of would rather perhaps not do. But generally speaking, it can work very well as long as your husband realizes just how sensitive you are, and as long as you realize and give him a break when he starts to plan things and organize things that you maybe just you just sort of just would rather just stay in bed or sort of sit in front of the television or hang out or something, and here he has a plan of action. So neither of you can help it. So yes, why wouldn't that work? Yes.
All right. Mark says, I'm going to say it, and we
Oh.
will all encounter this, the term action and reaction. You were blessed with a gift very few are entitled with. And I've sensed that when we all pass away, which we will, right, we have lessons to learn.
Yeah.
As you shared, dear heart Rosemary, those who cause ill feelings through words or actions don't actually get away with it. They have to face these instances on the other side. Your story is what brought you here today. I personally love the fact that you were called to make me aware of my gifts, and you will join me on my fortune cruise in 2023. That goes for Chris too. Je t'adore. I adore you.
Oh my God, Chris, does this mean we've got to start saving?
I think it does.
Thank you for that, Mark. All right, keep going.
Let's see. Jacqueline says, good afternoon, my love. Greetings from sunny Scunthorpe.
Oh, hello, Jacqueline. How are you? It isn't definitely, I bet it's not sunny there today. It might be, though. Are the daffodils out? Oh, gosh. Yes, well, thank you for joining us.
All right, I'm scrolling down.
Oh,
Let's
she doesn't.
see.
She doesn't have anything to say.
No, just a nice hello.
Oh, right. Well, that was lovely. Do I know you? Did I ever know you? Um, I was supposed to go to England. When was I supposed to go to England? I was supposed to go to England last year, just a few months ago, actually. And then with COVID and everything got cancelled. So I'm hoping that as soon as the bans get lifted, I'm hoping to go back. So, Jacqueline, pay attention, because I'm trying to think. There was a great pub, and I can't think what the name of the pub was. Not in Scunthorpe, particularly. Well, actually, on the outskirts. When I think about it, we could all get together and have fish and chips. Oh, fish and chips! Yes, I could just eat fish and chips. You can't beat
I'm
fish and
in.
chips
I'm in.
from England. Okay, Chris. Bang goes any diet we're thinking of.
All right. Frankie says, "Good morning, Rosemary. I've been feeling stuck on my life purpose. Can you tell me if Gray Eagle thinks I should go into nursing or become a counselor? Thank you."
Greg, I was going to say that's your choice, but Gregor has his hand on my shoulder, and here is the thing. What is this lady's name? What's this person's name?
Frankie.
Frankie. We don't know if you're a man or a woman. I don't. It doesn't really matter, does it? But anyway, Frankie. This is your choice. However, you will make the right decision. I can tell you this absolutely. You are a healer. You are a carer. You should be working with people in the care of people in whichever way that is. The thing about counseling is this: you need to listen more than you talk. And the thing about nursing is only do it if you can stand the messy stuff. Because I couldn't. I would be throwing up all over the place. But I so admire the courage that you have, because being a counselor, you encounter messy stuff as well. It's just not bodily fluids. So whichever way you choose to go, you're on the right path, and you will find that all of a sudden you will just simply know which way to go. Chris.
Jacqueline says, "You look so beautiful. You remind me of my best friend. She also didn't want to admit to anyone what she could see. I actually met with you when you were that age and again later on. My friend shares your gift and very rarely admits it to anyone for fear of being described as the crazy woman."
Well, thank you for sharing that. So we met. Who is this, Jacqueline again?
A different Jacqueline, yep.
Oh, a different Jacqueline. All right. So when did we meet and what happened? We want to know these stories. We want to be able to share them with others. And thank you for the compliments. Um, yes. All right. Moving on.
Randy says, "I want to give a compliment. I
Oh,
see you, and it
oh,
makes me so happy. I just love you."
oh. Is there a compliment? You can give me a compliment, Brandy, anytime you like. Let's face it, we all love compliments. We all love to be complimented, don't we, from time to time? It's just that, as you get older, I was going to say you get grey hair. I've got wispy bits. I don't know why I've not got more grey hair, because most people who are 20 years younger than I am have far more grey hair than I do. But anyway, what can I say? And
All
I
right, we're
don't dye
coming
my
right
hair
up
yet.
to 12, Rosemary.
Pardon?
We're coming right up to 12 now.
Okay, all right.
Mark says, "Rosemary, you were the lighthouse to the sinking ship, whereas she spoke of the spirit world and you were the key to their plea so that you could share our loved ones who've passed. You are my key."
Oh, thank you, Mark. I love that analogy about the lighthouse, because we are all little powerhouses, little beacons of light. When we think about our loved ones, when we're thinking about them, when we're sending them love, or whichever, whenever we're thinking about them, they can see our light, and our light calls out to them, and that's when they draw closer to us. So even if we're thinking sad thoughts about them, they can see the light within us. They can see our spirit as it glows, and they can hear, um, even if we're not calling out, even if we, uh, you know, like the lady, like the faceless lady, we are calling out. Our hearts are calling out. Our minds are calling out. Our spirit is calling out, and we all are like those little tiny lanterns in the sky for our loved ones in the spirit world to see.
I'll give you a couple of hellos. Giorgio Circetti says hello to you.
Good morning, Giorgio.
And Rosemary from Costa Rica says, "You're always in my heart and you help me so much."
Nice. We love
Um,
we love we love having people from all over the world, don't we? It's nice.
it really is one big family, right?
Yeah, really.
Um, just a couple of comments here. Sherry says, "I've had dreams where some of my friends and families have passed. I would wake up from such vivid dreams and find out that day that they had passed. What does that mean?"
It means that you're a very fortunate little girl. That's what it means. It means that obviously those who love you are letting you know, your angels are letting you know. It means that you're able to sense, you're able to be aware when a soul is passing to the spirit world. How lucky are you? Fantastic. How fantastic. It must be painful too, though. It must be hard for you to accept that you have this sense of people passing. But I think it's such a beautiful gift that you have. Chris, keep
A,
going.
a different Sherry says, "When I was a child, I used to have real dreams about holding a lantern and leading a lost child toward the light. This happened quite a few times. Does this mean anything?"
Oh, absolutely. I think that, I'm not an interpreter of dreams, but I'm listening to Great Eagle, who tells me that you were being told that you have the light within you. You are the light, and you can lead yourself, your child self, your inner child, to that place that you need to be. And he tells me that you've had so many trials and tribulations through your life, that you've had so many doubts about who you are and if you're good enough, and you've really struggled in so many ways with this, and I think that this, let's call it, you call it a dream, I call it a beautiful vision and a knowing of those in the spirit world giving you this insight about yourself. You are the light, you hold the lantern, you can guide and steer yourself wherever you like. Trust yourself, trust the light within you. How nice, very nice. Chris.
Skip says, "Devastated by your brave journey, but so grateful we can know the real you."
Oh, Skip, you mustn't be devastated by my journey. My journey is like so many others, and I do thank you. I do thank you for it. I'm not dismissing at all, and I do thank you for your, your thoughts and your insights. But the best gifts that God can give to us, and I firmly believe this, absolutely firmly believe this, the best gifts that God can give to us are the gifts of tears, the gift of pain, the gift of heartache, because boy, oh boy, does it ever teach us. It teaches us empathy, real empathy. It teaches us compassion. It teaches us to be to others what we would really desperately have wanted for our own selves. And so it's a learning process. It's a growing process. I do thank you for your words, but please don't be devastated for me, because I'm good, and I'm going to make some hobnobs this afternoon, and I'm going to make some shortbread because my darling boy is coming on Monday with my darling girl. She makes me laugh. My daughter says to me when I'm talking about Reese, she says to me, "What am I then? Chopped liver?" So I have to always remember that she, where he goes, she goes as well, which I'm grateful for. But they're coming on Monday. Yay! I'm so excited. So,
All right. Rose says, "Hi, Rosemary. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for the love. I went through a very dark time in my life, and once I began my recovery process, I started hearing voices, sometimes of loved ones, some I don't recognize. They get louder at night. It's been almost a year. They are still there, just now with brief images when I close my eyes. Do you have any thoughts or advice?
I think that you have all of your loved ones in the spirit world who are trying to encourage you. They're trying to say to you, you can do this. They're trying to say to you, don't give up. They're trying to say to you that all good things come to those who really, really want them to, and good things are coming to you, absolutely. They're trying to say to you, be brave and be strong. So I think this is absolutely fantastic and absolutely wonderful. I don't think you need to do anything about it, just listen. That's all. Chris.
Rachel says, hello, Rosemary from Belton, near Epworth, where your
I know.
story is based. A
I
friend who
know.
met you,
I know where Belton is. Um, Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going, Rachel. Sorry. Sorry, Chris.
a friend who met you bought me your book, as was always fascinated about the experience she had. Love listening to your stories.
Um, well, we want to know your friend's story. Was she actually there the night that my story unfolded? Was she there on the night when the lady in grey with no face came to ask for help? Uh, if anybody out there is listening, if anybody out there was present, even the lovely Scotsman who shouted at me and said I got too much makeup, if you're listening, if you're there and you're listening, we'd love to hear from any of you who have either been with me when things like this have happened, or they've heard, stories. So Rachel, thank you for that, and we'd love to hear what experiences your friend had. And yes, Belton was just the village next door. Where I used to live in Epworth, Belton was next door. The little cottage that I went to, I can't remember now where it was, somewhere out in the back of Beyond somewhere. Anyway, all right, Chris, I know that we're sort of struggling for time. Do we have time for a couple more minutes? Because you're in
Um,
charge now.
yeah. Jacqueline responded to you and she says, yes, we had met twice. And when you mentioned the pub, she's asking you, is it called the Dolphin Pub?
Thank you. Jacqueline, don't just say we met twice. I want to know how we met. What happened? Did you come to see me, or did we just meet at the pub, or what? What was going on there? Did we have fun? We want to know all about it, Jacqueline. Chris.
Let's see. Oh, it just scrolled there. Last one. Amy says, hello, beautiful souls. I keep smelling coffee brewing many nights before I go to sleep. Trying
Oh,
hard to figure out the message. Can you offer some clarification?
um, it could have something to do with the fact that you desperately like coffee, or it could have something to do with the fact that someone in the spirit world might feel that you might recognize them by that smell, which is very likely. My father, I remember him. Oh, I mustn't tell too many stories, but my father, from time to time, when he's around, if I'm asleep or half asleep, I'll wake up and I can smell this hair product that he used to use in his hair. It was called Brill Cream. They probably still have it today, but has a very, very distinctive smell, and my father used to use it all the time. And so people in the spirit world, they come very often, they'll sort of give us that sort of a memory of just to let us know, hey, I'm here, it's me. So you need to look to see if you have someone in the spirit world who loves you, who wants you to recognize them by the smell of coffee. And if you don't, you just put it out there. Can you give me something else? Can I have another clue, please? All right, well, that's it for this morning. Thank you. little Grace, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, my darling. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. We really do very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate your lovely comments. Um, I'm going to write to Walmart and tell Walmart how many compliments we had on this $8 top. And so I'm laughing about it, really. And what else? I would very much like to say thank you to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle. As always, he's done an amazing job. I'd like to say thank you to Chris also. Doesn't she do a great job? She does a fantastic job. If you want to contact me, you can email Rosemary at rosemaryaLtea.com, or you email Chris, Kris, Chris at rosemaryaLtea.com if you want a consultation, or if you want healing, or you want to know more about my books or my work. If you want to know what I'm up to, if you want to know when we are going to have our webinar Talking to the Dead, or maybe, I don't know, we should call it many lanterns or something. I don't know, many lights, many shining lights out there. Who knows what we're going to call it? But anyway, when we do it, which is going to be fairly soon, if you want to be put on the mailing list, which means you get first shot at the tickets, because we will limit the tickets. So if you want to do that, please email and ask to be put on the mailing list. We'll put you on our mailing list, and you will then get our newsletter, which we send out once a month. You will not be inundated with emails from us, because we just don't do that. Maybe one or two a month, that's all. If you want to know any more about us, or whatever it is, or if you've got a story of your own to share, or especially if you've got a story that has to do with your connection with me or a friend's connection with me, I'd love to hear that story too. And we are going to be reading them out from time to time. So please email me, Rosemary at rosemaryaLtea.com, or Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaLtea.com. In the meantime, thank you, all of you, once again. You're lovely, and I just love doing these shows for all of you, and I love doing that. I get more pleasure out of it than anybody else, I think. Please, all of you, have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a wonderful and blessed weekend, everybody.